Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're here to unpack a stack of sources you've shared with us, taking a deep dive into the really extraordinary world of Bruno Schulz's Sanatorium Under the Sign of the Hourglass.
Yeah, Schultz is, well, for anyone maybe not familiar, he was this unique Polish writer and artist too, early 20th century, just brilliant at crafting these worlds where reality, it just bends. Dreams and everyday life kind of meld together.
Absolutely. So our mission today, with these sources you've sent over, is to navigate through these really evocative, sometimes, let's be honest, perplexing excerpts.
Right, and pull out the most compelling bits, help you make sense of this very unique reality Schultz creates. It really is like looking into a dream that's somehow made of words. Logic doesn't quite apply in the usual way.
Definitely. We've got a great mix here. Descriptions of this really strange sanatorium, fragments of memory, these sudden transformations, and big themes like time, reality, identity.
It's fascinating. Schultz himself said his work was about finding the mythical sense of a family history, not just the facts, but the core essence.
Okay, so let's dive in. One of the first things that really jumps out from the sources is this concept of the book.
Ah, yes, the book.
It's described in these incredibly lofty terms, isn't it? A sacred codex,
Yeah.
a tempestuous Bible, even like an enormous petal-shedding rose, something beautiful, alive.
Totally. It's given this immense, almost holy significance.
Yeah.
But then, and this is where it gets, well, really Schultzian, I guess,
Mhm.
this revered thing, this mythical text, it's contrasted so sharply with its everyday fate. It's just mundane, degrading even.
Right. The narrator finds these tattered remnants, just pitiful shreds.
Because Adela is tearing pages out every day. Take to the butchers?
Or packing meat, or wrapping the father's lunch.
Exactly. So
Ugh.
you have this cosmic sacred thing ending up as basically garbage.
And the text even talks about this distinction, right, between authentic books and just ordinary ones. This idea that the authentic lives and grows.
Yeah, it's like Schultz is using the book to ask, what is value? Is it inherent in the object, or is it something we assign, something fragile that can be just torn away?
That tension feels key. The ideal versus the messy reality.
Absolutely. And the sources mention these exegetes of the book
Mm.
who believe that, all books aim at being authentic, that maybe the true meaning persists or even gets stronger as the physical form decays.
So it sets up this conflict right away. Idealized form, messy practical existence. And that kind of echoes through everything else, doesn't it?
It really does. Which brings us nicely to the setting itself, the sanatorium.
Yeah.
Because that sense of decay, of distortion, it applies to time itself there.
Okay, yeah, the sanatorium. The source is painted as a place where time is just completely out of whack.
Right. The maid even says everyone's asleep all the time, even during the day.
It's not just laziness, though. The text talks about the quick decomposition of time when it's not being watched carefully.
As if time is this unruly thing that needs constant supervision, or it just goes wild. It becomes undisciplined, does tricks.
And that leads to this deeply unsettling thing, the incongruity of our private times.
Yeah, the father's timeline and the narrator's timeline, they just don't match up.
Yeah. So the narrator's confused, right? Is his father in the restaurant having a meal, or is he sick upstairs in bed? It could be both, somehow.
Their realities are out of sync because their experience of time is fractured.
And the sources hint at why, talking about parallel streams of time, these branch lines.
Or two-track time. Even calling it somewhat illegal and suspect, like reality itself is splitting off onto different tracks.
Maybe weighed down by extra events, this contraband of supernumerary events it mentions.
So it makes you wonder, how does this fluid, totally unreliable time affect everything? The characters, the story.
It's not just a plot device. It feels like it destabilizes the whole idea of a fixed reality. The ground is literally shifting.
And speaking of shifting, that fluidity seems to show up in the characters too. They're not exactly stable figures, are they?
Not at all. The sources introduce this cast of really memorable people, often kind of transforming or just existing in these very unique mental or physical states.
The father, especially. He's so complex. He really embodies that instability.
One minute he's ill, the next he's seen as, well, transforming, like an insect, right? An enormous paper arthropod.
Or large gnat. Then he's this sad demiurge figure all about prose and order. But later, the narrator sees his noble heart.
And that final image, his last escape, crawling up the wall like an insect, he just defies any simple label.
Then you got Eddie, Grown man, disabled legs, uses crutches.
But the sources focus on his movement, these heroic swinging movements, his powerful shoulders he secretly exercises, conquering space his own way.
And his home life sounds intense too. These altercations you hear through the walls but never quite know what they are. Yeah. Adds this layer of contained energy.
And Dodo, affected by illness, lives completely in the present. Can't remember the past.
Just navigates this super monotonous life but with this strange, sober, and dignified optimism. He just accepts it all.
Which is pretty amazing given the world he's in.
Then there's Uncle Jerome, retreated from his past into this tiny alcove.
Hiding with his soup plate, living in fear, like a trapped animal, the text says.
Yeah, a large cat, condemned to walk up and down in his narrow prison.
And Bianca, she's fascinating. Starts off seeming so disciplined, graceful, wise, but sad.
But there's mystery there. The narrator has these secret affairs of state with her.
Right, but then their late-night meetings show this other side, whimsical, unpredictable, almost dissolute.
Yeah, suggesting something rotten and dissolute at the very center of spring. Even beauty has this hidden decay.
So what's striking is, like you said, they're not just characters in a story.
No, they feel more like embodiments of different ways of being, different relationships with reality or time, expressed through these really vivid, sometimes bizarre, physical details and transformations.
And that idea of different states coexisting, it brings us to another major tension in the sources, doesn't it? This struggle between order and, well, chaos, liberation.
Definitely. On one side, you have Franz Joseph. He's personified almost as this powerful but sad demiurge.
The ruler of the world of prose.
Exactly. Pragmatism, boredom, regulations, patents, procedures. His world is held together by rules. He resists change, tries to square everything off like paper.
And opposing him, forces linked with color, especially red, crimson, amaranth.
Yeah, those colors are tied to God, the book, spring, enthusiasm, something vital, explosive.
Red is explicitly called the liberating color of enthusiasm.
Yeah.
So powerful, it was apparently forbidden by Franz Joseph after some historical incident.
You can supposedly just absorb it from the spring sun. It's almost a physical force.
And the Stamp album becomes this key battleground.
Right. Described as God's fervent tirade, an explosive Stamp album against Franz Joseph's prose world.
The Book of Truth and Splendor. And it can apparently hint at the future adumbrate events.
And provide evidence for weird assumptions, like Bianca's villa being extraterritorial, outside the normal rules.
We see this conflict play out everywhere. Big public things like the Universal May Day Parade.
And secret conspiracies against Franz Joseph. The narrator even tries to get the wax figures involved.
Yeah, these leaders of mankind who might just be pretenders or madmen obsessed with one idea.
So, connecting this to the bigger picture, it feels like more than just politics in the story.
Right, it seems like Schulz is exploring this fundamental tension, dull bureaucratic order versus
the messy, explosive, unpredictable forces of life. Creativity, passion, maybe even the mythic or divine. And the sources don't really pick a side, do they? They just show this dynamic.
Yeah, it's just presented as how this world works, and it works in a reality where the lines are constantly blurring.
Exactly, between inner experience, metaphor, external reality. The narrator even calls himself a parasite of metaphors.
Easily swept away by comparisons. In dreams, sleep, they aren't just rest.
No, they're active states. The night is writing, the sources say. Reality warps, stories unfold, like with Adela's sleep, where her form seems fluid.
And the wax figures exhibition, that's a literal place where statues come alive at night.
Acting as leaders of mankind, blurring that line between object and being.
Then you get animal processions appearing in the narrator's room, like Noah's Day.
Described as rivers of hair and manes. Is it real? Is it a vision? Hard to say.
And birds fly out of barrel organs, or even out of books. Whole stanzas of quivering, pointed swallows.
Even the landscapes get involved. Decaying paintings in a museum don't just hang there.
They project a sick mirage into the sky, a second or spurious fall.
These painted scenes lack reality or earnestness, existing on the very edge of the evening.
So it really makes you ask, how much of this is supposed to be external events happening in a real place?
And how much is internal? Metaphorical landscapes of the mind.
Schulz deliberately makes that distinction incredibly difficult. Maybe in his world there isn't a clear line.
Which brings us to endings. In this fluid world, even endings aren't quite final, are they?
No, they seem to blend into new beginnings or cycles, like the liquidation of the family shop, or Adela disappearing. The narrator says he couldn't even be sure it happened.
Right. And the narrator's own abdication. from that weird triumvirate. He declares the conspiracy a failure, names Rudolph regent.
Or the wax figures exhibition burning down. That seems final. Their society destroyed because of the narrator.
And even bureaucracy gets its ending, of sorts. The narrator getting arrested for dreaming Joseph's dream. Francis Joseph's slow mills of justice grinding away, even applying rules to dreams.
But like you said, they're not clean breaks. They feel porous. Remember the authentic book, it lives and grows even as it's torn up.
Exactly. And the narrator's abdication, this moment of failure, it leads to this strange blessing of Rudolph and Bianca as a couple.
And the wax figures, yeah, they're homeless, but they get sent out into the world with barrel organs.
Playing for people. Their end is a dispersal, a new kind of existence, not just oblivion.
And that old age pensioner character really embodies the cycle. He seems to regress, grow smaller, go back to school.
Becomes like a child again. His reflection doesn't even recognize him, like he's losing his adult self, but maybe returning to an earlier state.
So there's this strong sense that things don't just stop. They transform, they scatter, they cycle back, they live on somewhere else.
Definitely. So let's bring this back to you, the listener. Navigating your own stacks of information, your own deep dives.
Yeah, what can we take from this journey through Schulz's world?
Well, this dive, based on your sources, it's a powerful reminder, isn't it? That knowledge, reality itself, isn't always neat, linear, easily boxed up.
Schulz's world just resists that kind of simple summary. Challenges how we usually think about what's real or important.
It pushes us to look beyond the surface, right?
Yeah.
Is the book you're looking at your source material just facts on paper, the prose?
Or does it have some deeper, maybe harder to grasp mythical sense, a story or meaning that kind of lives and grows on its own?
And does understanding have to be strictly chronological? Or are there maybe parallel streams, other connections, subjective takes that are valid too, even if they feel a bit illegal compared to standard logic?
Are the ideas or people you encounter in your research fixed? Or can they transform, seem different depending on when or how you look at them?
The sources really highlight that tension. Imposed order, the clear structure, the facts, the prose, versus the messy, colorful, sometimes chaotic, unpredictable stuff. Life, creativity, unexpected links.
Right, so truly getting something isn't just about nailing down the prose of facts. It's maybe also about being open to the poetry, the surprising, confusing, transforming, mythical sense hiding in there.
And noticing the details, like Schulz does. The smell of cinnamon, the way Eddie swings, the old man's dance steps, that specific color red, the birds from the book.
Those aren't just fluff. They're what make it feel alive, what makes it stick. They reveal that underlying strange sense of the subject.
So we've wandered through this world where books become meat wrappers, time breaks down, fathers turn into bugs, wax figures have revolutions, or become street musicians.
Yeah, it's a world that completely resists easy explanation, always shifting between the ordinary and the miraculous, order and chaos, inside and outside.
Which leaves us with a final thought for you, really. In your own efforts to be well-informed, how much are you looking for just the clear, ordered prose?
And how much are you open to the messy, surprising, maybe confusing poetry, and that deeper mythical sense that might be woven into it?
Keep diving deep. And keep questioning the nature of the book in front of you, the time you're experiencing it in, and the characters you meet both out there and maybe within yourself too.